Part 2 of Craftsmen in Training, where you join us as Falklands and Radfan platoons are about to take part in the Colby Cup competition. The Colby Cup competition comes at the end of training and takes the form of an inter-section and inter-platoon competition. The cup itself being awarded to the best platoon and lanyards being awarded to the best section.
Around the route. All right, we'll
there are 4 phases to the event: a stretcher race, an assault course phase, a weapon assembly phase, and finally the shoot.
All right, we also lay our weapons down. Yeah, and then we start going over the assault course. Yeah, we go under this first one, over the big one. Yeah.
Each section in turn covers the course, starting with the stretcher race. And here we see Radfan 3 section about to take the start.
Over the scramble net. Stand by. Go.
The stretcher itself is made from timber and scaffolding poles to make up the 160 pounds or so of weight meant to represent a person on a stretcher. They will carry this around the 2-mile circuit, starting with the flat road section, and after some 3/4 of a mile or so they will enter a wooded section where they will come across 4 or 5 obstacles. We will now reposition to pick them up in that wooded area. And here they are approaching the wooded section. You will notice also, as well as carrying the stretcher, they are carrying webbing which contains 25 pounds in weight. Added to this, they have to carry a rifle which weighs a further 10 pounds. There are 4 on the stretcher and 2 running alongside or in front or behind, usually to go ahead and pick the stretcher out of the obstacles from the other side. But this varies. This is up to the section itself to decide the tactics for the race. Obviously the event designed to encourage teamwork. And here as they enter the wooded area, the ground is getting harder to manage, very difficult to keep upright, very slippery. And they now approach the first obstacle.
Into the stream, turn right until you get to the log,
which is a stream. So they have to get the stretcher into the stream, go along the stream and take it out the other side. They will now head for the second obstacle while we reposition to pick them up on the third obstacle. And here they are approaching third obstacle.
Right, they're going through this bit. Left through here. That's it. And then out the other side to the bank.
Drop it, drop it, drop it, drop it.
Back through the stream.
Drag it, drag it, drag it.
And out the other side. Quite fast crossings for this section so far, so not too bad a time, I would think.
It seems lighter here.
Yeah, go ahead. Stop it.
It seems lighter.
Come on.
And they're coming up now to the fourth obstacle.
Whoa, come on, keep going.
Once again, a water obstacle.
Get it up, Ruth.
And they will now head for the fifth obstacle, and as they do so we will go over now to pick up the section that started some 15 minutes after this section and are now entering the wooded area.
Going! Ditch! Come on in, into the water, down to the left.
This is Falklands 1 section. And they are entering now the first obstacle. 15 minutes in between each section. You will notice their stretchers are white for Radfan and black for Falklands. And they come up now to the second obstacle.
This side, go this side. Get in the front. Get in the other side.
This is very, very sticky mud to get through and keep their balance.
Left man, take it off
The other side.
Get forward, Lee, come on.
Go, go on. We're doing well.
And they now head for the third obstacle.
That's it. Change here. What did you take on food? Where's the rifle? Somebody wants the rifle. Got him. Oh, just go off yourself. Hang on. Where'd you get that? Come on, please go to the next one. Move in front of me. Kendall, get away, King. Hey.
Keep coming up! Two people!
One, two. Go round, go. Good, two, come on. Come on, King. Nice. King, don't get a Get in there! Get in here, you daft! I believe you!
That's it.
Quick, come on! Lean for it, lean! Come on! No!
Got it! Got it!
Right, come on! Come on! Get out!
And a quick piece of repositioning on our part means we pick them up now as they approach the fifth obstacle.
Should be right, come on. A bit more hard work, we've done it.
A somewhat deeper
No bother.
stream, more difficult to get
Give us
in
a out.
and out.
Get in! Right, go to the back. Go to the back with Kim. Come on. Hang on. Get in there.
Get forward and take it off on the other side!
Get in there.
Come on! Got it! Get in!
Believe! Move! Get up, King! Right, go. If I give you a look.
And as they head for the finish, let's go over and see how Radfan 2 section are getting on.
Get out! Look! Follow that arrow!
And in fact they are in the stream of the first obstacle.
Come on!
Having started a further 15 minutes
Come on!
later than the Falklands section. They tackle the second obstacle now.
Back, that's it. Well done, lads. Come on, keep going. Okay. What's this thing? Change.
And as they head for the third obstacle, we'll again reposition to catch them up on the fourth obstacle.
Come on!
Another dish. To the right. Rosie, don't get in. Yeah. Get in to the right. Straight through you.
Time will be taken for each section
Get off that though.
going round the course by the physical training instructor accompanying that section.
Come on, give us a hand, give us a hand. Just pull. Come on, push that, man. Come on, lad, come on.
And they head now for the fifth obstacle.
In the ditch between these two lads. Go! Come on! Come on!
When they clear the fifth obstacle, they will take on the road section back to the finish, a distance of some three-quarters of a mile or so. But this time, of course, instead of having dry feet, they will be running with wet feet, socks, and so on. So a little bit more difficult. And we'll go over now to the next section, entering the first obstacle. This is Falklands 3 section.
Out here.
Left! 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 Come on!
Right, someone get here now!
Get up, quick!
Come here. You got it.
Come on! Someone at the back! Come on! Take the back. Yeah, wait. Time, come on, don't panic!
Left. 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 Say go, go, go.
Someone at the front!
Pull it down, sit down. Sit down, all like we're told to, come on. Do it properly, we'll get it right.
Come on, man, don't push!
Don't push. Good, Thomas.
Thomas, come on, get away. Come on, move it! Come on, don't panic! Come on! Right, come on. You all right?
Get him on A4. Right, take over.
Got it. Good. Okay, keep it going. Keep coming, Thomas. Get up in front of them. Yeah. Have a wheel. Right, give me some...
And again, we'll reposition.
Thomas, that's yours.
Go, Dick, in front now. Go. Run. Go.
So we're approaching now the fourth obstacle again.
No, mate, come on, quick run.
Come on.
2 out, 2 in.
Okay, don't panic.
Good.
Come on, get up there. Thomas. Get up there, Wilson. Get up.
2 out, let's go.
Two people on the right side carrying it.
You should have been up there, Wilson.
Come on. Shut up. Just go up, that's it. Come on.
Get up.
Get it up. Come on.
Get hold of it, come on.
I'm a tall left, look. Come
here. Someone get over here, walk it.
Charlie, get on here. Somebody get my rifle.
That's it, that's done. Slow it down.
Get it, boys. Yeah.
Come on, she should be there. See, nothing. To the back, to the back.
Get going.
Get over it. Come on. Go, remember, let's go, let's go.
And as they head for the finish, we'll reposition and
Weapons down, and then you can go.
pick them up as they approach the finish.
Weapons down over there.
Although
Weapons down. Away you go.
this is just the finish of the stretcher race phase.
Over there with your weapon.
The next phase begins now with the assault course. Time still runs and the clock is stopped at the end of this assault course.
On first. Up the way. Come on, Sonny.
So there's no rest, straight on.
Go.
And now teamwork must come into effect on this first 12-foot wall.
Get to the wall and help. On my shoulder. First time, first time. First time. Get up, get up. Who's that?
Any time saved on the stretcher race can easily be lost here.
Wilson, I need help. Come on, let me get some.
Push him. On my shoulder. On my shoulder. Come on, mate.
The art of this is working out your procedure on the wall to suit the weaker members of the section and still have enough to pull the last man over the wall.
What you doing, Walker?
Next on to the scramble net.
What's Ali? Good. Stay on the top. Stay on the top.
Come on, lads!
Pull hard. Pull hard.
Time, of course, being taken on the last man, so however fast the first few people may cross this assault course, it will make no difference at all. The last man has the time. And you can see now the pressure taking its toll. Some very weary faces now. Every last ounce of energy being taken up. Over the catwalk, a narrow ledge where we have to balance, gap in the middle to step over. And down the other side. Naturally, during training, the recruits are taught how to take on this assault course safely, to minimise any injuries, because this is a dangerous place to be if you don't treat it with some respect. And here we have the last members of the section coming in, and the clock will stop on the last man.
Stand up. Your time now, boy. Yes.
I think that was 23:49.
23:49.
Yes, it was. And as they move on to the next event of the competition, the weapon assembly phase, we now pick up Battalion 1 section coming into the finish of the stretcher race and about to take on the assault course.
Your sprockets at wall! Weapons down fast! Pressure down in between the cones, weapons down, a straight line over there. And the cones down, down!
Stretcher down, and then the weapons have to be in a straight line before they can proceed onto the assault course. And they're off.
Come on, boys! Get out of the boat! Come on! Come on, yeah! No, that way! One! Up! Get out! Get out! Whoa! Give us a hand! Fish man! Fish on! Come on, lads, get him over! Go! Come on! Careful's up now. Good. Come on, hit us off.
This smaller wall cannot be taken lightly. It's still quite a task. And although it's smaller, still quite a problem to get the last man over. Of course, the time being on the last man is all important. Over the catwalk and onto the finish. And as the last man comes into the finish, we'll find out the time.
Right, turn to your right, thrust down here, cover off a pair of targets each.
I hope.
Got 2 weapons in front of you. Don't touch your weapons, stand back.
Yes, 22 minutes 57.
During this phase, we'll attempt to fit a magazine.
So on to the next phase of the competition, the weapon assembly phase.
Stand by, go!
Here they have allocated time to assemble the SMG and the SLR weapon, and it must be then ready to be fired on the range. If it is not, then obviously they will not be able to fire it, so they'll lose points on the range phase. Both weapons have to be assembled safely. They'll be inspected after this phase to make sure they have been assembled properly and safely. And the magazines that hold the live rounds will have to be filled with the ammunition. Any ammunition that is not in the magazine when they leave here for the range cannot be fired. So the weapon training lessons put to the test here, seeing how much they've learnt during their training.
When you finished, you made sure to give verbal encouragement to your teammates that you must not lose the place of where you assembled your weapons.
Of course, these procedures being carried out many times in a soldier's life. They strip these weapons down regularly to clean them. In fact, every time it's fired, they strip them down to prevent the magazines, to prevent the weapons jamming when fired. Also, in training, they take what's called a TOEIC test, a test of elementary training skills, where they do a similar sort of test. They have a time limit to take apart and put together the weapons, load the magazines and so on. So by now they should be able to treat this as old hat.
The big end of the other thing goes in there.
20 seconds! So stand back behind your own weapons. Stand back behind your own weapon.
One member of the team having trouble with the SMG.
Come on! The thing with the hole in. Turn it round.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stop! There you go, put your weapons down.
And so there's one weapon that will not be able to be fired on the range.
Pick up both weapons.
And we go over now to the range where Falklands 2 section are about to fire the weapons.
Well, pick up both the weapons then on me. SMG in your magazine down there.
And fire both weapons if they've been assembled, or just the SLR if they haven't.
Right, what are we doing then? Going forward, find the SLRs, okay? They will fire their SLRs. Come back, you three will fire SMGs first of all, because you only fire 3 at a time, okay? And then fire the other 3, and then you last. Any questions? Good. Right, turn to my right, then press onto the firing point and cover off the target area. Stay to the rear and put your SMGs down, your SLRs down with magazines down beside them. Okay, cover off the target area then. You see a set of ear defenders behind you, pick them up and put them on your head.
Ear defenders, of course, always worn on the ranges to protect the ears.
So you have a set of 2 targets. What are you doing? Hurry up. For each firer, you will fire your 10 rounds on the left-hand target. Are there any questions? Are there any questions? Okay, get your defenders on then quickly.
There's a clock outside.
Dress forward slightly. Stop. Okay, listen in. With a magazine of 10 rounds. Load. In a kneeling, unsupported position. Down. Ready. magazine on.
Target, in your own time, go.
No time limits on the range. So you can concentrate on the target as much as they like. And plenty of time to deal with any weapon seizures, or stoppages as they're called in the military language. These self-loading rifles are now a little dated, the army in fact being issued with a new type of weapon.
Is anyone not finished? Unload!
So the second half of the section takes up the positions, ready to fire.
You'll notice set of your defenders to your rear. Pick them up, put them on your head.
It's a relatively short range to fire from compared to the ranges they've used in training, of course. They will have fired
Okay, pick up
on
your weapons,
various
keep them
ranges
pointed
up
down the
to
range.
300 metres during training.
Look towards
And
the target area.
the APWT, which they take every year, the annual personal weapons test, involves firing at various ranges and various positions up to 300 metres. And one of the positions even includes wearing a respirator, so they've had plenty of practice for this event.
Ready! Stop.
All the rounds back.
10 rounds on the right-hand target. In your own time. Go on.
Quite a kick to these rifles, as you can see.
Has anyone not finished? Unload!
And so with the shoot
Once you've unloaded completely, then stand up.
almost completed, last event of the competition, we go over now to the final part of the event, the prize giving, and here's the commanding officer to announce the results.
Well, quite a gruelling experience for you, and congratulations. I've only found one of you that did anything more tough than that, so we'll line up something special for him at a later stage. A gruelling experience and done with a purpose. It's an opportunity for you to learn a lot about what I was talking about only this morning, if you remember. And I was telling you about this magical thing called team spirit, and I was telling you something else. I was telling you about how you can start showing the characteristics towards being a Lance Corporal. I'm sad to say, actually, let's get the bad news over first, that some of you don't quite seem to have grasped what I was talking about, and were rather slow in putting into practice what I was telling you about. When you were going around carrying the stretcher, some of your teams, I'm told, were extremely quiet. Were quieter than some of the other sections that we have seen round on the stretcher race. Why were you quiet? Where was this self-encouragement? Where were the one or two of you amongst that group, because you were a team, giving the encouragement to the rest of the team? There's a perfect opportunity for you to generate that self-encouragement and get yourselves round. As I've said, you're over the transition now of where you've got your nice friendly corporal whispering in your ear, telling you what to do and helping you along. It's now up to you. You've got to generate it within yourself. So the one or two of you that were a little bit silent on the way round, just think why it was, and remember in future, generate the enthusiasm yourself, generate that motivation, and if others around you are looking as though they're beginning to get tired and uncomfortable, you be the one that's going to pull them together and get round the task. But some good results, and you've done very, very well today. Now, this commanding officers competition is called the Colby Cup competition. We have a cup for the winning platoon, which we'll announce in a minute. And I'll just say one word about why it's called the Colby Cup, because it was presented to the battalion a very few years ago by Mrs. Colby, whose husband, Mr. Ted Colby, served as a soldier in REME and passed through as a recruit, as you did, went on to serve 22 years in REME. And when he left, he still hadn't finished, so he worked for a REME workshop as a civilian technical officer for another 20 years. So 42 years service to REME was quite a record, and he deserves a few marks for endurance if anyone does. But he died recently, and his wife, in recognition of what he got out of the army and got out of REME, decided to present the cup. So in the spirit of endurance, we now present it to the winning platoon for this endurance activity. Well done, all of you. Don't forget the lessons you learned about team spirit, about generating from within yourself what it takes to succeed and what it takes to win. So, let us hear who the winners were.
Okay, in reverse order, 6th with a total of 311 points were 3 section of Radfan platoon. 5th with a total number of 322 points were 2 section of Radfan platoon. 4th with 325 points were number 3 section of Falklands platoon. 3rd with 330 points were 1 section of Falklands platoon. 2nd with a total of 389 points with 1 section of Radfan platoon. Shut up! Of 421 points, number 2 section of Falklands platoon.
And so number 2 section, Falklands platoon, go up to collect their white lanyards, which they will wear on the passing out parade.
Well done. How are you feeling? Well done. Thank you. Very, very good. This is the second time round, isn't it? Well, it is, isn't it? Thank you, sir. Well done. Very, very good. Well done. Congratulations. Again, well done. Thank you, sir. This is going to the winning platoon, isn't it?
This goes to the winning platoon. What are you doing there, Sergeant?
Oh, back in
And the platoon sergeant from Falklands platoon anticipating there.
The total numbers of points, Radfan 1,022 points, but the winners is Falkland with 1,076 points.
Come back.
And indeed, Falklands are the winners of the Colby Cup itself.
Every time, hasn't it, so far? Well done, very, very good. Congratulations.
This platoon will now stand to the right of the square on the passing out parade. And so we come to the 23rd of September 1988, the day that members of Falklands and Radfan platoon have looked forward to now for some 9 weeks. The day they will pass out in front of parents, wives, girlfriends and other members of the family. People now arriving from far and wide, despite the poor weather conditions. And you can see the rain covering the many hours work that's been spent on these boots, but nothing is going to spoil today for these lads who have worked so hard for 9 weeks for this day.
By the left, quick, fast,
So they move off now to take up position, ready to march onto the square.
Try that right. Right we are.
You see there the white lanyard
Smile at your mums and dads to the camera.
presented on the Colby Cup competition, being worn today.
All right, sir.
Listen to the platoon.
The band making ready for yet another engagement. Very busy band. The backup platoon, that will pass out in just 2 weeks' time, getting a taste of what is to come.
Sound the call.
As the drummer sounds the call to call on the markers. Will take up position where the platoons are to halt.
Markers! Inward! At interval distance. Quick march!
Parade there waiting for the signal that the markers are ready.
Front order! Right! Jump! Just back, the third man, second half squad, faultless platoon. Steady! Stand still! The front rank! Steady! Head on! Steady! Stand still! Just back slightly to mark it. Quiet! Quiet! Still, carry on! Turn on, rough up platoon! Steady! Steady! Carry on, nominate platoon! Just back slightly! Steady! Stand still! Steady! Stand still! The rear rank! Steady! All right! Eyes! Front!
The officer commanding a C Company will now take over the parade.
Good morning, sir. B and C Company in the open. Sir, may I have your permission to turn?
Parade now awaits the arrival of the inspecting officer.
Hooray! Time! Shoulder!
C Company, the Training Battalion and Depot, Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers, General Salute, present! Major Edwards presenting B and C companies formed up in the open order, awaiting your inspection. May I have your leave to order arms, stand past Falklands platoon, and stand the remainder of the parade at ease, sir, please.
Please, Major.
Rain has stopped now, but the wind has increased.
Sir, Second Lieutenant Sayer, presenting Colby 2, formed up in the open order, awaiting your inspection. Sir, please.
Thank you very much.
Great variety, obviously, all from different places.
Yes, yeah, all sorts of it.
And you again have the white man.
Yes, sir.
How many have you got in there? This involves
We had to carry some stuff.
The inspecting officer there asking just what they had to do to earn the white lanyard, and the recruit proudly telling him
What particular training are you getting on? Aircraft, yeah. Did you want to do that, or was that really given? Do you want to go to Germany or any other places? Yeah. I don't know.
Anyone watching the parade? Was that yesterday? They stayed down here or what? So they got up even earlier than you, okay? What do you think of the what's the worst bit? Look at that, we'll go straight up this old course, but you're already knackered, I suppose. Struggling over the ball. Yes.
Entertaining the families while the inspection taking place. Weather has brightened up considerably now.
mechanics in your platoon. I think I may have just... I've happened upon them. A or B? You on tanks? Well, it's very good action training too.
wind there, having taken its toll of hats. And the prize winners come up now to collect their awards.
The reviewing officer, Brigadier J.W.F. Rutter, will now present awards for notable achievements. Best Recruit, Falklands Platoon, Craftsman McLean.
Thank you very much, sir.
Well done, McLean.
Thank you, sir.
I spoke to you actually on parade.
Yes,
I
sir.
didn't know you were going to get that. Well done indeed. That's
Yes, sir.
very good. And what have you had?
Best Shot, Falklands Platoon, Craftsman McKinder.
Well done.
That's it.
Well done. And what score did you get?
Sure, sir.
You don't know. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And certainly it was obviously a very good score, otherwise you wouldn't have won.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, congratulations.
Physical Fitness Award, Falklands Platoon, Craftsman Phillips.
Well done, Phillips. You must be very fit, thanks. Well, you go through a competition in the gym, did you achieve that? Yes. And you scored very high.
Yes, sir.
Well done.
Thanks,
You look fit too.
REME Association Award for Endeavour, Falklands Platoon, Craftsman Williams.
Congratulations. Well done indeed. And what was it again? Well, how did you get that?
Just trying hard, sir.
Trying hard.
10% effort, sir.
Yeah, well done. Well done.
Best Recruit, Radfan Platoon, Craftsman Hope.
Well done, Hope. Congratulations. And did you expect to get that when you started on the competition?
No, sir.
You got more and more confident as you went on?
Sir.
Yeah. Well, it's a very good achievement. Well done.
Best Shot, Radfan Platoon, Craftsman Crozier.
Thank you very much, sir. Congratulations.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah. Have you always been a good shot?
No, sir.
This is a great new acquisition.
It is, sir. Yes.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes, sir, very much. Thanks, sir.
So you might take it up as a hobby as well.
I hope so, sir, yes.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thanks, sir.
Physical Fitness Award, Radfan Platoon, Craftsman Bennett.
You seem to be a very popular selection. You've got a large number of your family
Yes,
here,
sir.
have you? Oh, well done indeed. Yes. And again, I mean, did you enjoy that particular competition?
Yes, sir.
Have you always been keen on physical fitness?
I tried, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well done.
Yes, sir.
REME Association Award for Endeavour, Radfan Platoon, Craftsman Jones.
Well done, Jones. Take that in your left hand and congratulations. Well done. You've obviously done well towards the end of the course.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, keep up with the work. The good work. Well done. Thank you very much.
The winner of the Commanding Officers Competition, Falklands Platoon, Platoon Sergeant, Sergeant Hope.
John Hope, well done.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations. Excellent. You certainly look very good on parade. As you said yourself, you're obviously well pleased with this lot.
Yes,
Yeah.
I am.
Well done indeed.
Thank you, sir.
I want to begin my few short words of address to you this morning by thanking Colonel Shields for asking me to take this parade. I have known Colonel Shields for a number of years, and he once had the misfortune to be taught by me at the Staff College. So it's a special pleasure for me to be with him here again today. But it is also a special privilege for me to review your parade, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity. So far as myself is concerned, I have been many years in the Royal Armoured Corps, and the first point I want to make is when I commanded the Queen's Own Hussars, a quarter of my regiment wore the REME cap badge. Therefore, I feel I know REME very well and have great regard for the Corps and everybody in it. Latterly, I retired from the Army and was lucky enough to be offered the job of Managing Director of NAPI. So I now appear before you as a quasi-soldier in my honorary rank as Colonel of the Queen's Own Hussars. Just a word about NAPI. NAPI will be with you throughout your career. You've already seen what they can do for you in the Junior Ranks Club, and I expect you've seen some of the shops. This service is available to you in peace and in war, by land and at sea, and everywhere you serve. Sometimes people forget that NAPI is also an operational role as well as the role to serve you in canteens. This is a great pleasure to NAPI to perform this service, and I think it's very suitable today that I represent that association between the armed services and NAPI. Now I'd like to say a few words about the parade. I've attended and taken part in many such parades over the years, and I would like to congratulate you all on achieving a very high standard indeed. I'm only too well aware how difficult it is to achieve such a standard in the short 9 weeks which you have spent so far in the Army. What you have, of course, already learned in that 9 weeks is of inestimable value to you. Your basic military training sets the scene on your military career. And here you learn the absolute elements, the first principles of a military career, namely discipline, the comradeship that comes with being member of a section and platoon, and perhaps above everything else, you learn that to succeed in the services, teamwork is essential, and that you must operate as a member of a team. In the future, you will, those of you passing out today, go on to your trade training. And obviously, from REME's point of view, this is perhaps the most important part of your individual training. Again, I emphasize how important your technical skills are to the operational success of the British Army. No tank regiment or infantry battalion can operate effectively and efficiently without its equipment properly repaired by skilled technicians such as yourselves. Equally, those in the front line are more than well aware that you are soldiers as much as you are craftsmen. And many is the battle that could be turned by the tradesmen in the regiment actually bringing those military skills to bear. A word now, if I may, to the spectators behind me. I'm sure all of you are very pleased to see the support you've received and the large number of spectators here today. May I say how much you are welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I know many of you have come long distances, and I hope you will feel rewarded by the performance of your sons, brothers, or whatever on parade today. It's very important that you should continue to give your support to these relations. I can tell you that soldiering is a hard and demanding business, and it needs the support of friends and family. I'd like to say a word of thanks to the REME Corps staff band who have been on parade today and have played such excellent music during the parade. I'm conscious that both they and those on parade must have found it difficult in this extremely strong and blustery wind, and may I thank you for your performance and congratulate you on it. Finally, may I wish you all the very best in your future careers, congratulate you again on a well-conducted and excellent parade, and I will look forward to talking to some of you, and certainly many of the spectators, on a more relaxed and informal basis in a moment. Well done, and the best of luck.
Now, Falklands and Radfan platoon take up their positions, ready to leave the square. The backup platoon present arms.
Inward wheeling! Rise the sector! No! Stop!
And so as the members of Falklands and Radfan platoon leave the square for the last time as a recruit, we go over now to the gymnasium where they're about to put on a display. This display will show some of the skills they've learnt in the past 9 weeks.
field. Instruction is given of the mechanism and handling of the light machine gun. The recruits fire the weapons and also learn the operation of an LMG group in a tactical situation. Craftsmen in some units may have as their personal weapon a submachine gun, on which a weapon test is fired during the course. As you will see, a REME soldier must be capable of handling these weapons in many different situations, including a toxic environment. He will also need to defend himself when carrying out his normal tradesman's duties. Detail, unload. Physical training features highly in the syllabus. The next part of this demonstration is a display of physical training, and for this I'd like to introduce Warrant Officer Carl of the Army Physical Training Corps.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Physical and Recreational Training Centre. In particular, the gymnasium, where your sons have had many happy hours of enjoyment. During their stay, they've been under the supervision of their two PT instructors, Lance Corporal Daniels and Lance Corporal Henderson. When a recruit arrives at the training battalion, in addition to what you've heard already, he undergoes a physical fitness assessment. Go on, hurry up. The recruit is assessed for his endurance, upper body strength and agility. The endurance ability is tested by running 1.5 miles. The faster his time, the higher the point score. Upper body strength is tested by heaves to the beam, dips and incline bench sit-ups. Initially, they often find this quite difficult.
Week 1 recruit in position. Ready? Exercise, begin.
After 35 periods of physical training, there is a remarkable improvement.
Week 9 recruit in position. Ready? Exercise, begin. Steady. Heaves, how many? 21 full row. Sit up, how many?
50 full row.
Dips, how many? 19 row.
Having completed the physical training program and tests, the recruits have attained the high standard of fitness required of trained soldiers. Brad Bank and Falkland platoons will now give us a short display of some aspects of the training program, starting with the typical physical training period. Having warmed up all the main muscle groups, the lesson continues with group activities. Today's demonstration will be on blocks and vaulting. Kick out the blocks. Ready? 1, 2.
In position for your first exercise. Ready? Exercise, begin. Up, down, 1. Up, down, 2. Up, down, 3. Up, down, 4. Next exercise. Ready? Exercise, begin. Down, up, 1. Down, up, 2. Down, up, 3. Down, up, 4. Next exercise. Ready? Exercise, begin. Down, up, 1. Down, up, 2. Down, up, 3. Down, up, 4. Next exercise. Ready? Exercise, begin. Down, up, down, throw, catch, 1, 2. 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 In position for your next exercise. Ready? Down, up, down, throw, catch, 1, 2. Exercise, begin. Down, up, down, throw, catch, 1, 2. 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 In position for your last exercise. Ready? Exercise, begin. Down, up, down, throw, catch, 1, 2. Down, up, down, throw, catch, 1, 2. Down, up, down, throw, catch, 1, 2. Into 3 teeth. Go!
Team trick into one team. Go! Team trick into forward. Go!
During the course, the recruits were given an introduction to methods of self-defence. Today we have selected a few basic attacks in order to show you these defences. Just in case you missed any of these moves, we shall now have a replay.
First one, ready? Go! First kick, ready? Second kick, ready? Go. Yes, no, yes. First strike, ready? Go. Come on. Second single, ready? Go. Flip flop and time, ready? Go. You kill him? No? Okay then. 4v1, ready? Hey look lads, it's a nappy girl.
Hello, boys.
Goals first. Goals first. But if I don't get set first, then I'll
Get too ugly.
Right,
Get
right,
back.
go, right, go. Right, you two, get out of it, get out of it.
Come on.
Get out of it, come on. Come on, get out of it. Get out.
finishes with a relay race in order to foster competitive spirit and to develop teamwork.
Kids out for pyramid race. Ready? on, ladies and gents. You'll find it might make a good photograph at the end. Stand by!
Anyway, well done everybody. We thoroughly enjoyed that. Thank you, Colby, for this area.
And so, as the men of Falcons and Radfan platoons leave to take up their chosen trades, we say goodbye to the Training Battalion and Depot Arborfield and the men who have chosen to become Craftsmen in Training.